Nikola Tesla, the man who illuminated the world. Do you ever look at the lights in your room, the phone in your hand, the electricity powering your life, and wonder where it all came from? Let me tell you the story of a man who saw lightning and decided to capture it. A man who dreamed in electrical currents and spoke to the universe through science. His name was Nikola Tesla, and he didn't just change the world, he electrified it. This is not a story about someone who was born rich or had everything handed to them. This is the story of a boy from a small village who had visions, who saw the future in his mind before anyone else could imagine it. And through his genius, determination, and refusal to give up, he gave humanity the gift of modern electricity, the wireless world, and technologies we're still discovering today. By the time you finish this story, you won't just know about Nikola Tesla, you'll understand what it means to be truly innovative, to stand alone when everyone doubts you, and to create something so powerful that it changes civilization forever. And along the way, you'll learn new words, new ideas, and most importantly, new ways to think about your own potential. Because if a poor boy from Serbia could light up the entire world, then what's stopping you from chasing your dreams? Act 1. The Lightning Child. Nikola Tesla was born on July 10, 1856, in a tiny village called Smiljan, in what is now Croatia, but back then it was part of the Austrian Empire. The night he was born, something extraordinary happened. A massive lightning storm raged across the sky, illuminating the small house where his mother was giving birth. The midwife looked at the flashing lightning and said to Tesla's mother, "This child will be a child of darkness." She thought the storm was a bad omen. But Tesla's mother smiled through her pain and whispered, "No, he will be a child of light." And she was right. Nikola Tesla would grow up to become the man who brought light to the world. But nobody could have predicted the incredible journey ahead. Tesla's family was neither rich nor poor. His father, Milutin Tesla, was a Serbian Orthodox priest, a serious man who loved books and expected his children to follow rules. His mother, Duka Mondic, was different. She couldn't read or write, but she had an incredible mind. She invented small household tools and had a photographic memory. She could recite thousands of lines of Serbian poetry from memory alone. Young Nikola inherited both parents' gifts, his father's love of learning and his mother's inventive genius. But as a small boy, he was different from other children. Very different. From his earliest memories, Nikola experienced something unusual. He had visions. Bright flashes of light would appear in front of his eyes, followed by images of inventions and ideas. These visions were so real that he couldn't tell them apart from reality at first. This terrified him. He would see something that wasn't there and reach out to touch it, only to realize it existed only in his mind. One day, when he was just 5 years old, Nikola was playing by a stream. He watched the water flowing and suddenly had a vision. He saw a wheel turning, powered only by the water's movement. He ran home and told his father, "I want to build a water wheel." His father laughed and said, "You're too young." But Nikola couldn't stop thinking about it. Days later, he built a tiny water wheel from sticks and placed it in the stream. It worked perfectly, spinning smoothly in the current. This was his first invention, and he was only 5 years old. But Tesla's childhood wasn't easy. When he was 7 years old, tragedy struck. His older brother Dane died in a horse riding accident. Dane had been the family's pride, the perfect son, and Nikola idolized him. The loss devastated young Nikola and haunted him for years. He later said, I was but a shadow of my former self. Dane's death made Nikola retreat into his mind, into his visions and inventions. At school, Nikola was both brilliant and strange. He could perform integral calculus in his head so quickly that his teachers accused him of cheating. They couldn't believe a child could solve complex mathematics without writing anything down. But Nikola's brain worked differently. He could visualize entire problems in 3 dimensions, rotating them in his mind like holograms. One teacher pulled him aside after class and said, "Tesla, how do you do these calculations?" And Nikola replied, "I see them, sir. I see the numbers moving in space. I see the answer before I write it." His teacher shook his head in amazement. "You're going to do something extraordinary someday." But being different came with challenges. Other children thought Nikola was odd. He didn't play their games. Instead, he conducted experiments. He once convinced his friends to help him create a bug-powered motor. He caught dozens of June bugs, glued them to a tiny windmill, and watched them flap their wings to make it spin. He was fascinated until a friend started eating the bugs raw. He became so disgusted, he never tried that experiment again. Tesla's parents wanted him to become a priest, like his father, but Nikola had other dreams. He was obsessed with science and engineering. He read every book he could find about electricity, magnetism, and physics. He would stay up all night reading by candlelight until his father would storm into his room and blow out the candle, demanding he sleep. So he made his own candles and hid them, continuing to read in secret. His hunger for knowledge couldn't be stopped. When Nikola was a teenager, he fell seriously ill with cholera. For 9 months, he lay in bed, barely able to move, hovering between life and death. The doctors told his parents to prepare for the worst. One night, when Nikola was at his weakest, his father sat beside his bed with tears in his eyes. Nikola whispered, "Father, if I survive this, will you let me study engineering?" His father gripped his hand tightly and said, "Yes, my son, I promise you will go to the best school in Europe." That promise gave Nikola the will to fight. He survived the cholera, and as soon as he recovered, his father kept his promise. He enrolled Nikola in the Austrian Polytechnic in Graz, one of the best technical schools in Europe.
Act 2. The Vision That Changed Everything. In 1875, at age 19, Nikola Tesla arrived at the Austrian Polytechnic ready to devour knowledge. He studied physics, mathematics, and mechanical engineering. He worked from 3 a.m. until 11 p.m. every single day, including Sundays and holidays. His professors were amazed by his dedication and brilliance. But Tesla had a problem. He was obsessed with one question that nobody could answer. The question was this: why does electricity have to be so inefficient? At that time, electricity was still new. Most electrical devices used something called direct current, or DC power. DC power had a major flaw. It could only travel short distances before losing strength. This meant you needed a power plant every few miles to keep electricity flowing. It was expensive, wasteful, and impractical for large cities. One day in class, Tesla's professor was demonstrating a Graham dynamo, a machine that generated direct current electricity. The machine worked, but it sparked and crackled inefficiently. Tesla raised his hand and said, "Professor, couldn't we design a motor that runs on alternating current instead of direct current? That would be much more efficient." The professor's face turned red with anger. He said, "Tesla, you might be a good student, but that idea is impossible. Alternating current cannot power a motor. You're wasting your time and mine." The whole class laughed at Tesla. But Nikola didn't believe it was impossible. That moment planted a seed in his mind. He became obsessed with proving his professor wrong. He spent years thinking about alternating current, lying awake at night, trying to visualize how it could work. Then, in 1882, something extraordinary happened. Tesla was walking through a park in Budapest at sunset, reciting poetry to a friend. Suddenly, he stopped mid-sentence. His eyes went wide. His friend asked, "Are you all right?" Tesla whispered, "Watch me reverse it." He grabbed a stick and began drawing frantically in the dirt. His hands moved with lightning speed, sketching circles, coils, and magnetic fields. His friend stared, confused, but Tesla was in a trance. He had just seen it. The complete design for an alternating current motor appeared in his mind in perfect detail. He saw every wire, every coil, every rotating piece. This vision would change the world forever. Tesla had just invented the rotating magnetic field, the principle that would make AC rotors possible. He didn't need to build a prototype to test it. He had already seen it working perfectly in his mind. All he had to do now was bring it into reality. But here's the thing. Tesla had no money, no laboratory, no support. He was working as an electrical engineer for a telegraph company, barely making enough to survive. He spent his evenings filling notebooks with designs and calculations for his AC motor. But he couldn't build it yet. He needed to get to America. Act 3. The Journey to America. In 1884, at age 28, Nikola Tesla made the biggest decision of his life. He decided to go to America, the land of opportunity. With almost no money and barely able to speak English, Tesla bought a one-way ticket on a steamship bound for New York City. The journey was supposed to be his fresh start, but disaster struck before he even left Europe. Tesla's luggage was stolen at the train station. Everything he owned, his clothes, his money, his notebooks full of inventions, all gone. When Tesla boarded the ship, Tesla had only 4 cents in his pocket, a book of poetry, and the clothes on his back. Most people would have given up, but not Tesla. He spent the entire voyage across the Atlantic working on calculations in his head, preparing for his new life. When Tesla finally arrived in New York City in 1884, he was overwhelmed. The city was loud, dirty, and chaotic. Horse-drawn carriages filled the streets. People shouted in languages he didn't understand. Smoke poured from factory chimneys. Tesla had one address written on a piece of paper: the laboratory of Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison was already famous. He was known as the Wizard of Menlo Park, the greatest inventor in America. Edison had invented the light bulb, the phonograph, and held hundreds of patents. He was everything Tesla wanted to become. Tesla arrived at Edison's laboratory and asked for a job. Edison looked at the tall, thin immigrant standing before him, covered in dirt from the voyage, and said, "What can you do?" Tesla replied, "I can fix anything." Edison handed him a letter of recommendation that Tesla had carried from Europe. It read, "I know 2 great men, and you are one of them. The other is this young man." Edison was impressed. He hired Tesla on the spot. At first, Tesla worked as a basic electrical engineer, fixing Edison's DC generators, but he quickly proved himself brilliant. Edison gave him an impossible challenge: "Fix my most broken generators, and I'll pay you $50,000. $50,000 was a fortune in 1884. Tesla worked day and night for months. He completely redesigned Edison's generators, making them far more efficient. When he finished, he went to Edison and said, "The work is complete. Where is my $50,000? Edison laughed and said, "Tesla, you don't understand American humor. I was joking." Tesla was devastated. Edison had lied to him. Instead of the $50,000, Edison offered him a small raise. Tesla was furious. He quit immediately and walked out of Edison's laboratory. This moment changed everything. It created a rivalry between two of history's greatest minds, Thomas Edison, the famous inventor, versus Nikola Tesla, the unknown genius, and the battle between them would be called the War of Currents.
Act 4. The War of Currents. After leaving Edison's laboratory, Tesla was broke and desperate. He took whatever jobs he could find. For a while, he worked as a ditch digger, earning $2 a day. Can you imagine? One of the greatest minds in history digging ditches in the streets of New York? But Tesla never stopped thinking about his AC motor. He never stopped believing in his vision. One day, while digging a ditch, Tesla met a foreman who asked why such an educated man was doing manual labor. Tesla explained his situation and showed the foreman his sketches. The foreman was impressed and introduced Tesla to two businessmen who agreed to fund his inventions. In 1887, Tesla finally opened his own laboratory in Manhattan. Now with space and funding, Tesla built what he had seen in his vision years earlier, the alternating current induction motor. It worked perfectly, just as he had imagined it. The motor was smooth, efficient, and powerful, unlike anything the world had ever seen. Tesla filed patents for his AC motor, and soon word spread about his invention. One man who heard about it was George Westinghouse, a wealthy industrialist who believed AC power was the future. Westinghouse visited Tesla's laboratory and was amazed. Westinghouse said, "Tesla, I'll give you $1 million for your patents, plus royalties on every AC motor sold." Tesla agreed, and suddenly he was wealthy. But more importantly, he now had the resources to challenge Edison. Thomas Edison was terrified of AC power. He had built his entire empire on direct current, and Tesla's alternating current threatened everything. Edison began a propaganda campaign to convince the public that AC power was dangerous. He held public demonstrations where he electrocuted animals using AC current, trying to prove it was deadly. He even helped develop the electric chair using AC power, hoping people would associate it with death. The newspapers called it the War of Currents, Edison versus Westinghouse and Tesla. But here's what Edison didn't understand. AC power was simply better. It could travel hundreds of miles without losing strength. It was cheaper, more efficient, and more practical for cities. In 1893, Tesla and Westinghouse won the contract to light the Chicago World's Fair using AC power. Over 27 million people attended the fair and witnessed Tesla's system illuminating an entire city with electric lights. People had never seen anything like it. The fair was called the White City because of the brilliant lights, and Tesla became a celebrity overnight. One reporter asked Tesla, "How does it feel to illuminate the world?" Tesla smiled and said, "This is only the beginning." The final victory came when Tesla and Westinghouse won the contract to build the world's first major hydroelectric power plant at Niagara Falls in 1896. AC power from Niagara Falls was transmitted 26 miles to Buffalo, New York, lighting up the entire city. Tesla had won the War of Currents. His AC power system became the standard for the entire world and remains so today. Every electrical outlet in your home uses Tesla's alternating current system. Edison eventually admitted defeat and even began using AC power himself. Act 5. The Wizard of Electricity. By the late 1890s, Nikola Tesla was famous, wealthy, and respected. He was called the Wizard of Electricity. Newspapers covered his every experiment, and high society wanted to meet him. Tesla was tall, handsome, and mysterious. He spoke 8 languages and had impeccable manners. Women were fascinated by him, but Tesla never married. He said, "My brain is my bride. I could never give my full attention to a woman." Tesla moved into the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City, one of the most luxurious hotels in the world. He lived there for years, conducting experiments and hosting demonstrations for wealthy investors and journalists. But Tesla wasn't interested in fame or comfort. He was obsessed with pushing the boundaries of science. He wanted to do things nobody had ever imagined. One of Tesla's wildest experiments happened in 1899 when he moved to Colorado Springs to build a massive laboratory there. Tesla wanted to study lightning and wireless transmission of electricity. He built a giant coil called the Tesla coil that could generate millions of volts of electricity. One night, Tesla activated his machine and created artificial lightning bolts over 130 feet long. The thunder from his experiment could be heard 15 miles away. Tesla had created the most powerful electrical device ever built. People in Colorado Springs were terrified. They saw massive lightning bolts shooting from Tesla's laboratory into the sky. But Tesla wasn't finished. He believed he could send electrical power wirelessly through the Earth itself. He conducted experiments where he lit up light bulbs from miles away without any wires. He succeeded. Tesla told reporters, "One day, electricity will be as free as air. People will draw power from the Earth itself, without wires, without power plants, just pure wireless energy." This was Tesla's greatest dream: free, wireless energy for everyone. But here's the tragedy. Tesla's dream required massive funding and powerful investors to make it real. And those investors weren't interested in free energy. They wanted to control electricity and charge people for it. Act 6. The Tower of Dreams. In 1900, Tesla met one of the richest men in America, J.P. Morgan. Morgan was a powerful banker who controlled vast amounts of money. Tesla pitched Morgan his most ambitious idea: a massive tower that could transmit messages and electricity wirelessly around the entire world. Morgan was intrigued. He gave Tesla $150,000 to begin construction. Tesla was overjoyed. He bought land on Long Island, New York City, and began building what would be called Wardenclyffe Tower. The tower was enormous, 187 feet tall with a massive copper dome on top. Underneath were tunnels going deep into the earth. The design was brilliant, but also incredibly expensive. Tesla worked day and night overseeing construction. He poured his own money into the project. He was so close to achieving his dream of wireless power for the world. But then, disaster struck. In 1901, a man named Guglielmo Marconi successfully transmitted the first wireless radio signal across the Atlantic Ocean. Marconi became instantly famous, even though his radio used 17 of Tesla's patents. When J.P. Morgan heard about Marconi's success, he went to Tesla and said, "Tesla, I funded you to build a wireless telegraph system, but Marconi already did it. Why should I keep funding you?"
Tesla explained, "This tower isn't just for messages, it's for transmitting power wirelessly. I'm going to give free electricity to the entire world." Morgan's face turned cold. He said, "If anyone can draw power from your tower anywhere in the world, then where do I put the meter? How do I charge them?" Tesla realized his mistake. Morgan didn't want free energy for the world. He wanted to control it and profit from it. Morgan pulled his funding immediately. Wardenclyffe Tower was never completed. Tesla was devastated. He had invested everything, his money, his time, his reputation into this project, and now it was crumbling. He fell into a deep depression. He couldn't pay his workers. He couldn't finish the tower. The man who had lit up the world was now powerless. In 1917, the Wardenclyffe Tower was demolished and sold for scrap to pay Tesla's debts. Tesla watched from his hotel room as they tore down his greatest dream. Act 7. The Forgotten Genius. After the failure of Wardenclyffe Tower, Tesla's life changed dramatically. The money dried up, the investors left, and slowly the world began to forget about him. New inventors were making headlines, while Tesla faded into obscurity. Tesla moved from one cheap hotel to another, eventually settling into the New Yorker Hotel in a small room on the 33rd floor. He lived there for the last 10 years of his life, surviving on a modest pension from the Yugoslavian government. But even in poverty, Tesla never stopped inventing. Every day, he would wake up at exactly the same time, walk to the park, feed the pigeons, and return to his room to work on calculations. He filled thousands of notebooks with ideas for inventions that were decades ahead of their time. Tesla became known as the Pigeon Man of New York. He developed a deep affection for the birds, especially one white pigeon that would visit his window. Tesla said, "I loved that pigeon as a man loves a woman, and she loved me. When she died, something went out of my life." People thought Tesla had gone mad, but he hadn't. He was simply alone with his thoughts, a genius who had been forgotten by the world he helped create. Despite his isolation, Tesla continued to make bold predictions. In interviews, he described technologies that wouldn't exist for decades. He predicted smartphones, saying, "One day you'll be able to carry a device in your pocket that can communicate with anyone in the world instantly." He predicted drones, video calls, renewable energy, and even the internet. Reporters would visit Tesla in his hotel room, and he would tell them about death rays, wireless energy, and machines that could photograph thoughts. Most people dismissed him as a crazy old man, but Tesla was simply seeing the future, the same way he always had. On January 7th, 1943, at age 86, Nikola Tesla died alone in his hotel room. A maid found his body the next morning. The newspapers barely covered his death. The man who had given the world AC power, wireless communication, and countless other inventions died in poverty and obscurity. But here's the incredible part. The FBI immediately seized all of Tesla's papers and notebooks. They classified them as top secret. The US government was very interested in Tesla's final inventions, especially his notes on directed energy weapons and wireless power transmission. Many of those documents remain classified even today. Act 8. The Legacy Awakens. For decades after his death, Nikola Tesla remained largely forgotten. While Thomas Edison was celebrated in history books, Tesla barely mentioned. But slowly, quietly, Tesla's legacy began to reemerge. In the 1960s and 70s, scientists and engineers rediscovered Tesla's work. They realized that many modern technologies were based on his inventions. The radio, X-rays, remote controls, neon lights, robotics, and wireless communication all had roots in Tesla's work. In fact, the Supreme Court ruled in 1943 that Marconi's radio patents were invalid because they used Tesla's inventions. Marconi didn't invent radio, Tesla did. But by then, both men were dead. Today, Nikola Tesla is recognized as one of the greatest inventors and scientific minds in human history. His name has been honored in countless ways. The electric car company, Tesla Motors, is named after him. The unit of magnetic field strength is called the Tesla. Airports, ships, and streets around the world bear his name. But more than the recognition, Tesla's ideas are finally being realized. Companies are working on wireless power transmission, the same dream Tesla had over 100 years ago. Solar panels and renewable energy reflect Tesla's vision of free, abundant power. His concepts of robotics and automation are becoming reality with AI and smart devices. Tesla once said, "The present is theirs. The future for which I really worked is mine." He was right. The lessons from Tesla's life. So, what can we learn from Nikola Tesla's extraordinary life? Here are the most important lessons. Lesson 1. Vision comes before reality. Tesla didn't build things and then hope they would work. He saw them working perfectly in his mind first and then brought them into reality. He said, "My method is different. I do not rush into actual work. When I get an idea, I start at once building it up in my imagination. I change the construction, make improvements, and operate the device in my mind. When I have gone so far as to embody in the invention every possible improvement I can think of, then I proceed to actual construction." This teaches us that before you create something in the world, you must first create it in your mind. See your dreams clearly. Imagine them working, and then bring them to life. Lesson 2. Persistence beats resistance. Tesla faced rejection constantly. His professors said his ideas were impossible. Edison cheated him. Investors abandoned him. The world forgot him. But he never stopped believing in his vision. He never stopped working, even when he was digging ditches, even when his tower was destroyed, even when he died poor and alone. He never gave up on his ideas. If you believe in something, keep fighting for it. The world will resist you, people will doubt you, but persistence always wins in the end.
Lesson 3. Being right isn't enough. This is a hard lesson, but an important one. Tesla was right about almost everything. He was right about AC power. He was right about wireless communication. He was right about renewable energy. But being right wasn't enough to guarantee success. Edison was wrong about DC power, but he knew how to market himself. He knew how to work with investors. He knew how to build a business empire. Tesla didn't care about business. He only cared about science, and that's why he died poor. The lesson here is that genius must be combined with practical skills. You need both vision and the ability to make that vision sustainable in the real world. Lesson 4. Give without expecting return. Tesla could have been one of the richest men in history. He tore up a royalty contract with Westinghouse that would have been worth billions of dollars today. Why? Because Westinghouse told him the company couldn't afford to pay, and Tesla valued their friendship more than money. Tesla wanted to give free energy to the world. He didn't want to charge people for electricity. He dreamed of a world where power was abundant and accessible to everyone. This generosity cost him financially, but it showed the purity of his character. True innovation isn't about profit. It's about improving human life. Lesson 5. Solitude can be a strength. Tesla never married. He never had children. He spent most of his life alone. But that solitude allowed him to think deeply, to focus completely on his work without distraction. He said, "Be alone. That is the secret of invention. Be alone. That is when ideas are born." In our connected world, this lesson is more important than ever. Sometimes you need to disconnect, to unplug, to be alone with your thoughts, because that's where creativity lives. Lesson 6. The future belongs to the bold. Tesla's ideas seemed impossible. Wireless power, death rays, robots taking photographs of thoughts. But he pursued them anyway. He wasn't afraid to look crazy. He wasn't afraid to fail. Most people stay safe. They only pursue ideas that already have approval. But nothing revolutionary ever came from playing it safe. If you want to change the world, you have to be willing to stand alone,
to believe in impossible things, and to work toward them even when everyone thinks you're crazy. The Nikola Tesla nobody talks about. There are aspects of Tesla's life that make him even more fascinating. He had unusual habits and beliefs that shaped his genius. Tesla had obsessive-compulsive disorder. He was obsessed with the number 3. He would walk around a building 3 times before entering. He used exactly 18 napkins at dinner because 18 is divisible by 3. He calculated the cubic volume of every meal before eating it. He was germophobic, refusing to shake hands and constantly washing his hands. He couldn't stand pearls. If a woman wearing pearls entered the room, Tesla would leave. He claimed he needed only 2 hours of sleep per night, though he occasionally took naps. He had photographic memory and could memorize entire books. He spoke 8 languages fluently: Serbian, English, Czech, German, French, Hungarian, Italian, and Latin. Tesla also believed he received messages from aliens in his Colorado Springs laboratory. He detected strange radio signals that he believed came from Mars. Modern scientists think he was detecting natural radio waves from space, but Tesla was convinced he had made contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Whether these habits were symptoms of mental illness or simply the quirks of genius, we'll never know. But they made Tesla who he was: brilliantly different, impossibly focused, and absolutely unique. The Tesla effect on modern life. Let's pause and think about how different your life would be without Nikola Tesla's inventions. Right now, you're probably reading this on a device that's charged with AC power, Tesla's system. You might be using Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, wireless communication. Tesla pioneered that. The light bulb above you, the refrigerator in your kitchen, the computer in your pocket, all powered by the electrical grid Tesla designed. Modern electric cars are named after him because Tesla envisioned electric vehicles long before they existed. He drew designs for electric cars in his notebooks decades before they became popular. Smartphones that Tesla predicted in 1926 are now in everyone's hands. Drones that Tesla built early versions of now deliver packages and film movies. Remote controls that Tesla invented in 1898 now operate everything from TVs to garage doors. Tesla's Tesla coil is used in radio technology, television sets, and even in some medical equipment. His bladeless turbine design is being reconsidered for modern renewable energy. His ideas about wireless power transmission are being developed by companies trying to charge devices without cables. This man died 80 years ago, but his inventions still shape our world every single day. This is what real genius looks like. Not just creating something for your time, but creating something that continues to matter decades, even centuries later. The rivalries that defined him. Tesla's life was marked by competition and conflict that pushed him to achieve more. Tesla versus Edison. This is the most famous rivalry. Edison represented the old world, direct current, brute force, trial and error. Tesla represented the new world, alternating current, elegance, and mathematical precision. Their battle shaped the modern electrical grid. Tesla versus Marconi. Guglielmo Marconi won the Nobel Prize for inventing radio, but he used Tesla's patents to do it. Tesla sued, and eventually the Supreme Court ruled in his favor, but by then, it was too late. Marconi had the fame. Tesla versus himself. Tesla's greatest enemy might have been his own perfectionism. He couldn't compromise. He couldn't play the business game. He would rather be right and poor than wrong and rich. This integrity made him a hero, but also ensured his struggle. These rivalries teach us that competition can be productive. It can drive innovation and force us to be better. But it can also be destructive, consuming us and preventing collaboration.
Tesla could have worked with Edison. They could have combined DC and AC power and changed the world faster. But pride and principle got in the way. Sometimes the greatest victory is knowing when to collaborate.
What would Tesla think of today's world? If Nikola Tesla could see our world today, what would he think? He would probably be amazed that we carry computers in our pockets, that we can communicate instantly with anyone, anywhere in the world, that we can access the sum of human knowledge with a few taps on a screen. But he would also be disappointed. We still charge people for electricity, even though solar and wind power are abundant. We still use wires for most power transmission, even though wireless is possible. We still fight wars over energy resources, even though renewable energy could make those resources obsolete. Tesla dreamed of a world where energy was free, where war was unnecessary because resources were abundant, where technology served humanity instead of controlling it. We're not there yet, but we're getting closer, and it's because of pioneers like Tesla who refused to accept the limitations of their time. The final words. Nikola Tesla died alone, forgotten, and poor. But his story didn't end there. On his 75th birthday, Tesla gave his last major interview. He was asked what he was most proud of, and Tesla said, "I am most proud that I never became cynical, never lost faith in humanity. Despite everything I have suffered, I still believe that people are good, that science can solve our problems, and that the future will be better than the past." This is perhaps the most important lesson from Tesla's life: optimism in the face of defeat. Tesla had every reason to be bitter. Edison stole from him, investors betrayed him, the world forgot him, but he never became angry or cynical. He kept working, he kept dreaming, he kept believing. When asked if he had any regrets, Tesla said only one: "I wish I had been born 100 years later, because then I would have seen my dreams become reality." But here's the beautiful truth. We are living in the future Tesla imagined. Every time you turn on a light, every time you use wireless internet, every time you charge your phone, you're experiencing Tesla's dream. Nikola Tesla was a child of light, born in a lightning storm. And he spent his entire life trying to bring that light to the world. He succeeded. Today, when you look at the lights in your room, remember the man who made them possible. Remember the immigrant who arrived in America with 4 cents in his pocket and changed civilization forever. Remember the genius who valued knowledge over wealth, innovation over fame, and humanity's future over his own comfort. Nikola Tesla's life teaches us that one person with vision, courage, and determination can literally change the world. You don't need to be born rich. You don't need connections. You don't need permission. You just need to believe in something bigger than yourself and work toward it with everything you have. Tesla said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." But perhaps his greatest secret was simpler than that. Never stop dreaming, never stop creating, and never stop believing that you can make the impossible possible. This is not just Nikola Tesla's story. This is a blueprint for anyone who wants to leave their mark on the world. The future is not something that happens to us. It's something we create. And if a Serbian immigrant with nothing but his mind and his vision could electrify the planet, then what's your excuse? Your dreams are waiting. Start building them today. Because as Tesla proved, the present might belong to others, but the future belongs to those brave enough to imagine it.